Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Jace Beleren Must Die. Masood, you changed it right at the last second. I was really excited to interview your cat about how they've been.
She's right here. We can go back to it. We know it's more interesting.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome. TK, welcome back. I'm sure you will appreciate the well-kept and detailed notes that everyone left for you between episodes. They're very good. They're very good.
Once I get a moment, I would like to read you the first sentence and sentence fragment from these notes. I will do that in just a moment.
They're really good.
They're very good.
I remember after I got them back from the proofreader, I remember.
Where it's weird. Most shows we spend our time and energy on things like production and playing the game, but not here. Jace Beleren Must Die. Here we hired our own notes editor because that's a good expenditure for making a show. That's fine.
Yeah, we're all really into archiving and
so there was a convention between the last time and now. How was that convention? I think Carlos and TK, you both went to GameholeCon. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was ecstatic to find cocaine that cheap.
Okay. All right.
That's the best part about cons. Cheap cocaine.
Okay. Now I'm just imagining that the cat is talking. It's great.
I'm really scared of Azula having Masood's voice, actually. Let me make a note. I need to make a note thing for a short story later.
Can you do an impression of your cat, please?
Just like kitten with grown
that's my voice.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Azula, and I'm a little bean. I'm a little smush push that gets spoiled all day long.
It's always so fun to hear other people's like talk. You know what I mean? Like how the words, because it all makes sense. Like it belongs in my vocabulary. It's just not frequently used.
Absolutely. She's my little smush push.
Yeah, like smush push. That's only native to north side of Chicago.
Yeah.
I really like how this is the thing. If you watch enough Twitch, you'll notice that broadcasters have their own like I'm doing a chat voice. So when they do a voice to make fun of chat or to mimic chat, whenever chat tries to backseat them, whatever, everyone has their own voice and it's consistent every time they do it. And it's funny watching people because it really illustrates what they think of the people that are watching them play video games.
What's your chat voice?
Yeah.
I gotta save it. I gotta save it for chat. Well, I gotta save it for chat to do something stupid, and then I can make fun of them using the voice. I'll keep an eye on them today.
Oh, their chat voice. I thought you said Chad voice.
No. Like when chat does something obnoxious, I think every single broadcaster I've ever seen has some voice to be like, "I'm making fun of you, chat." It's a thing. So I know what mine is.
I just do the same voice that I use to make fun of my mom, which is the same voice everyone uses to make fun of their mom.
What's the same voice everyone uses?
Oh, she never hears it. She would whoop the shit out of me. But everybody uses that voice where it's like, okay, make sure your room's clean. Okay, make sure your room's clean.
Oh. Yeah.
Don't forget, that's not a concentration spell. Don't forget, it's not a concentration spell. Calm the fuck down, okay?
See, I don't
make fun of them to their face either because I love them.
I don't have a hard time with chat backseating me on the rules stuff. Honestly, like if they come at me without a page number, then we're gonna have problems. But usually, when people are like obsessively nerdy about something, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I did not know that was the rule. Thanks, chat. You did it. It's just the way that you offer that advice.
I don't mind if it's like a fight where it's like, oh, is that a concentration spell? And then chat says, no, it's not a concentration spell. I'm like, oh, thank you, chat. Thank you for not making us look it up on D&D Beyond and take 2 seconds to do it.
Yeah.
That I would prefer not to take. But sometimes when it's like,
well, it's fine unless the rule reference is wrong, because that happens a lot too, where people will say things as if they're facts, but really they're just opinions or misrememberings.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and
day.
Yeah, in the horror game, it's like I'll describe a monster as something, and it uses a certain stat block. And people will ask like later what stat block I used, and I'm like, I used this one, and they're like, well, your description didn't match that stat block.
I hate that.
Jesus.
I never
don't give a
put
fuck.
the same monsters and stat blocks together just because it annoys me. I don't want you to know what monster I use.
Yeah, and it's a horror show. It's supposed to be spooky.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be spooky.
Yeah, and
Well,
like
that's- I mean-
I'll describe technically Kayla's children or Vasily's children on the show are homunculi, but they're
Yeah.
not statted as homunculi. They're just technically
You kind
homunculi.
of have to do that, I think, with a group that is, especially with a group that's familiar with the game, because
Mhm.
a big part, and obviously TK, you know all about this, but a big part of doing like something that is creepy or scary or whatever is not knowing. So if you're like,
Yes.
you see a hyena-like creature, people are gonna be like, no big deal, it's just a knoll. We can knock this guy over easy. Because you can't help it, right? Like if you've read the monster
Mhm.
manual, you know, like your brain immediately goes to solve that problem.
Mhm.
And so it can be tricky to maintain an atmosphere of scary when you're like, yeah, it's a skeleton. It's got like 10
Yeah.
hit points. I'm not scared of that thing.
Mhm.
Spooky.
Yeah. So I hear that. I think it's cool too. Like being able to surprise people, to be like, yeah, it looks like a ghoul, but I've made some adjustments.
That's
So
why I specifically use monsters from older editions.
mhm.
So I'll be like, fucking look this one up.
So do you, when you do that, when you're making like an adventure or whatever, and you use monsters from some other source, do you usually just tweak an existing monster, like adjust their hit dice or their damage or whatever, or do you like build stuff from scratch?
It really depends. Like when I've used the boneless or the backwards man, I've used both of those from early Ravenloft editions. Those are already available in some supplements that you can get on DM's Guild by David Jester. You should definitely pick those up. They're great.
Mhm.
But for the gruesome lurker, I use that from the 4th edition psionic monsters,
Yeah.
and I created a brand new stat block for that one.
Cool. Yeah. I'm just always curious because I think sometimes being a DM is kind of an isolating experience where you're like, well, I'm just playing with my players and I'm doing my GM thing, but there's one of me and 4 of them. And so talking to other people who do Dungeon Master stuff, it's always interesting seeing like, oh, what kinds of tools do you use, or like how do you do it? I'm always like endlessly curious about that.
Yeah. There are a lot of like really good, and even in the 5th edition, I really appreciate that there's like, hey, how to make these ones spookier, or add this thing or something like that. And then I usually will send the stat block to another editor because I've made enough stat blocks now and edited enough stuff mechanically. Check me out on DM's Guild. That I can do it pretty well. And then I'll send it to another editor and be like, hey, does the CR look right on this? What do you think of this? Do you feel like this would fit in lore wise?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good to have somebody else to like look over that stuff because I'm like, I don't know, balance. What is that? Like, does this seem like a reasonable amount of damage? And it's always like, no, just like less, just slightly less. This is too much. You're going to kill everyone.
Oh yeah. Like I usually start out, I'm like, okay, so this is probably going to be a boss fight. I should put some D10s in this. I should put some D12s in this. I was like, disintegrating ray. That sounds great. And then something happens, like, I don't know, the second game that I did at Gamehole Con where I failed. I roll in the open when I'm with people.
Big Sam.
And I failed a saving throw to not fall asleep. And so they made my boss fall asleep, who is a human adventurer. So he has nothing against it, like in the first round. And I was like, oh no. And because it's not his lair, he doesn't have lair actions, which I love. I love lair actions because I'm a monster.
I wish I had special powers when I was at home. I would have special powers all the time because I never leave. I'd just be like,
you do have special powers. It's called 911.
Jesus.
Do you think a robber breaking into your house is going to call the police? No.
One time, I will say this.
That's
One
your
time
lair
I
action.
was.
You live in Canada.
One time I was, you think that. One time I was with some friends and we were walking home from a movie and we were walking through a park and there was this like drunk guy. He was following us on his bike, just like yelling shit, trying to start stuff. And so my friend was like, I'm just gonna call the cops. Like, I don't want to confront this guy or whatever. So he calls him, he calls the cops in and he's like, yeah, there's this guy and he's like following us and he's making me real uncomfortable. And the cops are like, cool, what's your address? And we're like, we're in the park. We're like on our way to this. And they're like, yeah, we just really can't do anything unless you can give us an address. And we were like, That's cool. We'll just get stabbed. It's fine. Thanks for your help. Like, don't worry about it.
Fake. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, cool, guys. That's, I guess, unless we, you know, I'm going to walk into that 7-Eleven over there. Then you can come and rescue us, or no? All right, great.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that 7-Eleven owner probably has a lair action.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The shotgun. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you're making, this is the trick too, is that when we make encounters and stuff for D&D, I think people expect like boss fights, right? Where you're like a single very powerful opponent, because we played video games, we watch movies, we know how action stuff is supposed to go. But the way Dungeons and Dragons works is that it doesn't matter how powerful your one dude is, 4 adventurers will just take them apart. They'll just be like, oh, you only have 1 turn. We have so many actions with which to kill you.
We have so many turns.
Yeah. What's that? You wanted to get an action in? No, you're dead. I'm sorry. It's turn 2.
At GameholeCon, I ran this game. I call it Snake Bite, where the players have snakes inside their body. And if they get hit, the snake bites a different part of their body, and they either get superpowers or they can't use that part of their body anymore. So so it's a D4. 1 is legs, 2 is body, 3 is arms, and 4 is head. And so they could basically, some of them are like Weekend at Bernie's style, like can't see, can't hear, can't do anything, and they're just like walking with their hands. And it's all like, and if they get hit by something, then they have to roll another D4, and then, you know, maybe they get their head back, but then they lose their arms. And I don't know. I focus on those types of mechanics more than like trying to figure out the perfect monster or something like that. Because like you do something like that, and like a ladder becomes a challenge, right?
I love that.
How do I get the party up a ladder?
Yeah. It's great because like nickel and diming, especially for boss stuff. For season 1, their boss fight was actually in 3 tiers.
Yeah.
Where one of their guest players turned on them. The second guest player turned on them. So they had to fight them. And then they had to try and redirect all of these ghouls and stuff that were attacking everybody. And then the boss fight was at the end. The best part about having mobs of ghouls, especially against a bunch of spellcasters, is that spellcasters love AoE spells. And they don't have a lot of them. They run out real fast. And so when the boss monster shows up, they don't have any spells.
Yeah, and that, I think you're right. I think that's the thing, is that if you let your players come up against the adversary fully rested and ready to go, that person is toast. Like they are just going to get annihilated. It's like, well, we'll use all of our once per long rest abilities. Yeah, you really have to wear them down slowly. But the problem is players are smart, so they notice that, where they're like, cool, we're gonna not go and confront the boss yet. We all need to take a brief nap. We're just gonna
the boss came to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I like, a lot of my easiest times when figuring out boss fights is I do genuinely treat it like that video game where it's like you get that first hit point level all the way down,
and
then
phases.
Cinematic montage that you can't, and then there's
cinematic.
And that's a thing that used to be, there used to be a lot more mechanical stuff like that in 4th edition, where they had bloodied, where it was a tag you applied to a creature once it was at half hit points or lower. And that was the way you could do like raid bosses or whatever, where it was like, oh, you get them below half, they shift, and now their stats are different, or they get access to new abilities or like whatever. And so you do that kind of like Dark Souls boss fight thing. I do that too. And I think I'm surprised that it's not somewhere in the monster manual, or like, you know, like phased boss fights or phased combat like that. I think it's super useful.
I do bloodied, but when it's bloodied, that's when, and this applies to players as well. When you get bloodied, that's when it's going to start being like massive damage. So if you crit on something that's bloodied, maybe you cut his arm off or something.
Right, like the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay used to do that, where it was like you had your normal hit points, but then crits bypassed those. And then if you ran out of hit points, every hit was like you lose your leg or whatever. You're too weak to defend yourself.
Yeah. Of course, whenever, like for me, whenever bad guys get below 5 hit points, they don't have death saves, so they're pretty much going to go prone. Like it's, what are you going to do when you have only 5 hit points? It's like,
I wanted to ask, TK, did you run am I remembering this correctly? Did you run Alien at GameholeCon? Was that you?
No, Lisa played in
Lisa.
it.
Yeah, okay.
I've played before, but I didn't run it. Though
Yeah.
I do love Alien. It is my favorite franchise for anything ever.
I read the like starter box or whatever, and I just wanted to see. But you like it? You've played it before, and you did.
I liked it a lot. And the GM was like, "Why don't you take a look down that elevator shaft?" And I was like, "What the fuck? No! Why would I do that? That sounds stupid."
I feel like
I was playing a character where I was like,
right. Yeah, I feel like if you're in a game you know to be a horror game, you kind of have to play your character like a person in a horror movie. Like you know it's not smart to look down the elevator shaft, but you're like, yeah, my character would do that. Yeah, I look down the elevator shaft. Yeah.
No, I'm the one who spooks.
Yeah, it can be hard having to be a PC sometimes.
Yeah, okay, Adam, shut up. Who asked you?
If I could speak with Masood for a moment, as much as I'm enjoying speaking to the cat, Masood, this is at you. Total left turn. I went and saw Parasite.
Yes, I
saw. Holy shit, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Well, she knew.
This isn't about me anymore. I'm out.
The cat looks so offended.
Yeah. How dare you?
How dare it? I don't have the love of all these people. No, did you have the feeling I had immediately afterwards? Like, I want to watch it again.
Yeah, I felt it's funny because I saw The Lighthouse and I saw Parasite in the same week.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I came out of Lighthouse being like, that's the best movie I've seen all year. And then I watched Parasite and I was like, oh, The Lighthouse. I'm sorry. You just got bumped.
Yeah, bud.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Pepperoni.
This won't give anything away. But the moment when the son walks into the mansion and you see his reaction to everything before you see it was just like such beautiful cinematography. I just really loved it. Yeah, it's a very good movie.
It was given that I think the last movie of his that I saw was The Host, I expected it based on the name to be quite different, and then I was like, no, this is a lot more like it's weird, but it's like slice of life weird. It was so good. Have you seen Shoplifters? You seen Shoplifters? It's a Japanese movie. You should watch it. It reminded me a lot of Parasite. Reminded me a lot of that. They're both kind of good in that same way. I think you'd dig it.
I think we should have some offline discussion about the parallels to like North Korean, like sort of. Yeah. There's such good content in that film.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that's impossible to talk about it without spoiling it. So I guess suffice to say, if you haven't already and you like good cinema, go and watch Parasite. It was awesome.
Watch Parasite. Here's the thing. We'll have this up as a YouTube video. Okay, so just leave right now. Go drive, watch Parasite, and we might still be running by the time you get back, so we can talk about it in chat.
I'm really excited about the way that you two were easily able to recall this movie this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As opposed to
honestly, you guys talked about Parasite for way less time than I thought you would.
Well, the thing is, because we don't. Yeah, I don't want to give anything away. It's one of those like, it's good. You should see it. We don't want to talk about why it's good.
Watch it.
I mean, it's not like we're trying to remember who's in it or like when it came out or whatever. Like I only watched it like less than a week ago, so it's still fresh in the old noodle. But give me 2 weeks and be like, so Adam, what'd you think of Parasite? And I'll be like, what now?
Which classic rock song did you kick out to let Parasite in?
That's right. Unfortunately, I have forgotten the lyrics to Tom Sawyer. So,
I mean, doesn't really matter. It's got the guitar riff, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'd watch a show of just spoilers. I love spoilers. I'm okay with it. It like, it's a deflated bed. I don't know. Am I the only one who likes spoilers? Like, I like knowing about them. Like,
no,
I want to know everything or nothing.
So it depends on the content, right? Like, if it's something I care about, like that I started watching, don't spoil it for me. But if it's something,
if you started watching, definitely.
Yeah, if you're already like watching it.
Someone told me the plot to Midsummer without me going to see it, and I was like, hell yeah. Like I loved hearing it. I would have been terrified in that audience, but having it described to me, I was like, this would have been a good film to have seen, and I was okay I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I intentionally spoil myself for a lot of movies, especially horror movies, because so many movies nowadays sneak in my personal PTSD's triggers, so I have to look them up.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. And so like now I have to look up stuff way in advance just to be like, okay, is there going to be I have to look this up, but it's fine. Just doesthedogdie.com. Just figure that out.
Yeah, right.
A lot of those websites. I bless every one of them.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you want to have an easy access to like knowing what kind of content there is without it spoiling it, and finding where that line is for you. Like, it really depends. Yeah, there's a period of time where between when spoilers start coming out and when I'm able to watch something, where there is that temptation where I'm like, I kind of just want to like know everything about this new Star Wars movie before I go see it. But also like, I think the idea, if you really think that spoilers are super, super important, I guess you're kind of saying that the how you get there isn't as important. That if you're like the kind of person where like, they spoiled the movie, it's ruined. It's like, but what about the whole film? Like, what about everything else in that movie? Are you just discounting that?
Not Awful says it in the chat. I enjoy spoilers because then I can spot the clues leading up to the thing, but like not even just clues, but just like the theme and the little Easter eggs and like a good movie has very specific writing and very specific camera movements. There, everything in the scene is there for a reason. Yeah. And a lot of that stuff you don't catch the first time, and maybe you have to watch the second time. But if you know some of the plot points, you can be like, oh my God, this is genius. This is what they're moving to.
Yeah,
it was like, so let's take Star Wars. I found out about like the very prolific death in the last one before going in, and therefore I spent every scene being like, oh, is this the prolific death moment? And it took me out of it every time where I was like, is this it? Oh, no, it's not it. So I was relieved when it finally happened. I was like, cool, now I can watch the movie. But like, yes, look up who wins Survivor before you watch a season of Survivor. It's more interesting that way.
It is, because you can really put yourself into that journey.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of things that would really upset me if I had them spoiled, and the only thing I can really think about is Terrace House. If anybody spoiled any of that bullshit, that would actually make me mad, because I watched to find out. I'm not watching to be like, Terrace House is a Japanese. Do you want to try to describe it? Describe it, Katie May. You tell Carlos what Terrace House is.
Okay. Imagine the real world, but it was calm. It was like the real world and the Great British Baking Show, like the level of serenity that brings you had a child. That's Terrace House. Okay. It's so good. It's like this little slice of life reality show that happens in Japan. And it's so you're like following like three men and women, like they come and they live in a house together, and then there are like these 5 comedians who like watch a segment and then talk back about it, and they're all really funny or also be super obnoxious. And so it was like but it goes over like a long period of time.
It's a year, yeah. Wow. And so the thing is, like in Japan, group dates are a normal part of dating. Like usually groups of people will hang out a bunch. And then they'll go straight from like, we're hanging out as a group to like, you and I are boyfriend and girlfriend now, and we'll probably get married, right? Like there isn't that kind of like pairing off and spending a lot of time alone together stuff that happens after you decide to like be together with someone. And so the show's
like chaperone dates.
Yeah. And so the show's framework is it's like an extended group date that lasts like a year.
Live together.
But I'm watching the trailer right now. I explain it. It's beautiful. I love that. I'm watching the trailer and having you explain it.
Yeah, it's
like
very
real time.
It's very wholesome, and it's like it's not mean spirited. And what's cool about it is they live together in this house, but they all have their own lives where they still have to go to work. It's not like we do dumb games and like competitions. It's just they live here and they live together and they like make food and hang out, but they all have jobs and they go and do things.
Do they make them get jobs?
No, but they pick
one where they're in Hawaii.
Yeah, they pick people who usually they're like fashion designers or models or like skateboarders, or like they pick people who have. It's not like, though I think the last season they had a bunch of people that just had like worked in fast food or went to university, or so it wasn't like it's not all like that. But yeah, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting show, and for me, the reason why spoilers would wreck that show would be is I watched to find out like the chemistry of the people. If somebody was like, oh, these two characters end up together, I'd be like, oh man, now all the like fake outs and stuff don't mean anything. And like, you know, I know the reality of it, but it's a very wholesome show.
Now I want to watch it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm so slow to watch Terrace House because it's subtitled, and like subtitles have to be like in a very like, because I'm usually multitasking and that's how my brain works. Terrace House, I feel like it's like therapy. We're almost like you're like everything else goes away. This is the only thing. The books of Terrace House. It's so good.
Yeah.
It brings to me the same peace that like dumb Hallmark Christmas movies do.
I wonder, it's only a matter of time before someone makes like a 6-player LARP based on Terrace House. I'd play that. That'd be hilarious.
I would play the shit out of that.
The question is, how do you play a chaotic evil character in that environment?
You cast an American.
I love the idea of like, here's our new reality show, and it's like, here's 5 normal people and Tack. Let's go.
Okay. I see how this is gonna go, but I'm gonna let you guys know right now, I am not the one to be bullied this week. We're going back to Katie May.
What the fuck? I think it's Masood's time.
No, please. It's back to me. Everyone loves me from the cat. Now it's time to roast this mustached man. Come on.
Yeah, well, let's get to the thing. Like we're so close to committing a crime that will get you at least a little closer to your goal. So instead of killing Winnegar's friends, let's kill Jace's friends. But I want to start with Tack, because you heard some news and went to go and handle it. So give me the quick, like, you know, this is the meanwhile. We fade in on you know, several hours prior. Tack. Now, is this like, do we fade in on Tack like frantically running for home, or like what is your approach when you head down into the underground, right? Like how panicked is Tack?
Well, all my co-conspirators are playing Uno in Ironclad's guest room. I think Tack is frantically running. Like, and Tack has really short legs, so they definitely run. Tack is always 100% on like energy all the time, all of their emotional energy. It's kind of like Tinkerbell, where their bodies are their body is so small they can only feel one emotion at a time, and the emotion is blind panic. And so there's like windmilling arms and like frantic running.
Yeah, totally. So that was the thing, is I wanted to get what kind of like sort of the emotional cadence of the moment. So there's panic and you're running, you go through these kind of upper level service tunnels that give you access to the underground proper. And when you get down there, the scene is clearly one of like retributive police action, right? You see Azorius senators, you see the members of the Senate down here, you see arresters. It's usually they're in groups of 2 with an ornithopter, and literally we see from Tack's perspective as you come around a corner, we can see some dwellings, and we watch a couple of Azorius drag a Divkaran, like an elf, from his home, and he's shouting like, you know, you can't do this. I'm a member of the Golgari Swarm. Like, you can't just come and take me out of my house. I've done nothing wrong. And this is happening throughout the underground. Like, it's clear that there are targeted strikes going on against specific members of the swarm. And so there's a lot of like shouting and probably no like it's early enough on that the word is still spreading that this is happening. So there isn't like a huge riot or anything yet, but it's clear to you, Tack, that as soon as you get into a populated part of the underground, that this is already happening. That they've started ahead of the bill being ratified. And this is fairly normal Azorius stuff, where sometimes they'll do something to get it done and then later be like, yes, it was totally legal. See, we signed the bill for how this is legal like a week ago. And you're like,
and don't worry, we sent it into our internal affairs office and they didn't see anything wrong with it.
That's right. An independent panel will take a look at our actions, and so that's what's going on. And I think you come around the corner and immediately, like, there is the underground is lit completely differently than normal, so it looks almost like an alien world to you, because normally it's lit in like dim light, most of the folks that live down here have dark vision, but there are, luminescent globes. There's a bioluminescent fungi that lights this place. It's usually pretty dim, much more like a black light, like a velvet painting than the surface world. But with the arresters down here, everything is being cast in this bright white blue light that is coming from the ornithopters. So there's this sudden like stark brightness down here that you and the other people that live in the underground are definitely not used to.
Give me a second to like deal with this police action flooding my hometown.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So let's be honest. TAC was not interested in being stealthy until they saw cops. And you said that they're kind of targeting specific people, or they're just picking up anybody.
Let's have you make a roll and see what we can figure out. So I think probably perception in this case.
Yeah, because that's going to determine how many cops, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
14?
do not have the sound on my Chromebook off.
That's all right. So you got
you're welcome, headphone users.
You got a 14 on your perception. So yeah, it doesn't look like they're just arresting everyone, right? This isn't a round up the whole neighborhood like paddy wagon type deal. This is a going after specific people, and then there are other people who are like getting involved, right? So you look over and you see these two arresters, and they're dragging this Devkaran out of their house, like putting a bag over his head. But near him there is another Devkaran, like pulling on the officer's uniform, being like, "Get away from him! Like you can't do this." People getting involved because it's their community that's under attack, not because they are being targeted, but it does look like specific people.
Okay. A couple questions. Is a 14 enough to determine if they are specifically targeting Devkarans?
It's not so much the 14. It's that this neighborhood, like this block, is where a bunch of Devkaran live. You don't have anything else to compare it to. This is just like the first thing you've seen. Yeah.
Okay.
Chances are pretty good.
I'm in a nice neighborhood.
Chances are pretty good. Like this is the thing. The more, and this is true of the guild in general, but they tend to go after like the Golgari is broken down into political blocks, and those blocks tend to be aligned culturally. So the Crawl tend to operate kind of as one block, and the Devkaran as another. And it is possible that just the political block that make up the Devkaran have like made enemies of the Azorius. But what you heard above seems that it's now that Vraska is in charge, that the Azorius have a specific mandate to go after people that supported her.
Okay. Well, and I'm also wondering if it's enough to determine if I recognize any of the Devkaran as a Kron. Do they live in this area, or are these more civilian Devkaran?
I think at this point you can't really tell. Part of being a member of the Okran is that you are like a secret assassin, but not really not really at home. Like most people know that your mom is a high-ranking member of, like they're not a secret assassin's
next to
cult.
some at the secret meeting too. So
yeah, but this Devkaran is just wearing like clothes. So if they are a member of the Okran, then they're off duty, right? They're not wearing their carapace armor, and
that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, then I will stick to the crumbling alleyways and try to make my way home.
Okay, let's have you make a stealth roll. Now you're very good at this, but
let's see if I'm good enough. Because if I roll a 1,
and you know what? I'm gonna give you advantage because it's home territory. It's easy to hide down here. The Azorius, because of their spotlighting, they have limited. They have very good visibility in very limited areas, right? They have these bright pools of light that they're shining on people, but that makes the shadows darker for you to hide in. But I'm gonna give them advantage as well because there's so many of them. So we'll ratchet both sides up.
Okay, I got 22.
22, okay, which is pretty average for you. Let me see what stat block I should use for arresters. Let's see. Knight or veteran. Okay. Okay, so perception is a +2. I'll give them advantage.
Also, was that perception enough to see if this was like riot officers or?
Yeah, that'll be another check.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'll check later.
Okay, all right. So you're able to stay hidden. They're not here to like root out criminals. This is more of a surprise attack kind of thing. Like you don't even know that you were going to be under arrest, and now you are. So they're not really looking for people skulking around or like trying to escape or whatever. But you're not the only one. I think that you spot several other people like using back alleys to get away. People kind of like going for, and maybe you run into someone. Maybe there's like a human. You come around a corner and you bump into her, and she turns like surprised, and she sees you, and this is the thing. You don't know this woman, right? She's human, or maybe half elf. She has like a mood mark on, but she doesn't look elven. And you don't know her, and she doesn't know you. But she looks at you and sees that you're Golgari, right? Sees the way you're dressed, and puts her hand to her mouth and like puts her hand around her arm around you. She's like, "Come on," and like pulls you into an alley. Okay. And you can see that there are other people kind of like skulking away, like trying to get away from the main thoroughfare and trying to escape. And we see an Azorius arrestor walk by, kind of like looking for people. Make that religion check, and then you can right. talk to this lady if you want.
Bloop.
I don't know. All these Azorius kind of look the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can tell you this: they're bastards. So yeah, they're walking around with their like, they got helmets on and like armor, and they have their stun wands and stuff, but it's hard to say if they have any other purpose besides coming down here. But it looks like they're ready if the Golgari put up a fight.
Okay.
But yeah, so this woman like pulls you around the corner, and she looks at you and she says, it's not safe up there. The Azorius are everywhere. You have to be careful.
So is this, I know thieves can't.
Yeah.
Can I assume that there is like Golgari slang that we can at least engage in?
Yeah.
Something like that, or leave like a message on the wall that there are like arresters, which direction they're in and things like that.
Yeah. So the thieves can't as a thing in D&D presumes the idea that the organization you belong to or the place you would have learned it would have been like a thieves guild. And unless you're guildless, that doesn't really make sense. Like it makes more sense the way you're positing it, that it could be like it's Golgari signs rather than, and I think it does make sense for the guilds to have, especially guilds like Golgari or Dimir.
At least since I have a Golgari agent background.
I think it's much more reasonable to assume that Thieves' Cant is that for you, that it's more tied to your guild. Yeah, I think that's totally fine.
That's fine. Because I'd like to like, at least I assume that we have like some way of communicating with each other without Azorius necessarily.
Like understanding us. Yeah. So I think Tack would ask, he'd be like, where are the big bugs, like, or they'd be like, where are the big bugs, but with like some small street sign hand language just to keep this chatter down. Quieter. Okay. So when she sees you like switch into that combination Hansen, and I guess so the Golgari, and without delving too deep into this, because this is a lore hole that I think we could probably fall very deeply into for the rest of the episode. What your like, so your secret language, the Golgari would communicate through, because it's mostly dark down here, but a lot of things have dark vision, so it might be like signs in a certain kind of like paint you can only see with dark vision, or that it shows up brighter in dark vision. I think it wouldn't so much be like, it might be like incorporating the crawl language a little bit. So like making like a clicking or a buzzing sound between words, changing the meaning of the word, right? Helping you like obfuscate the true meaning of it. And then like
S's are more like Z sounds.
Yeah, and it would be a language you would use when you want to keep like quiet. So there's probably like making sounds that you could easily disguise as something else. There's like a sort of mimicry aspect to it. But it lets you get basic concepts across either more subtly and obviously more quickly. So when you do that, when you switch, the girl picks up on it. She notices and does the same.
And when I'm asking where the big bugs are, I mostly mean the Okran.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And you can impart that to her. And she says, she communicates to you, basically, she says that the Okran are doing what the Okran do. As soon as there is trouble, they they scattered. And they went into hiding so that they can get revenge for whatever happens, right? The Okran are not here to protect us. They're here to get vengeance once we fail to protect ourselves. She says it started maybe 20 minutes ago. They've been dragging people out of their houses, specific people. They're not asking any questions. They're just taking them away. And she says that her aunt, who she stays with, she got captured and she got away.
Okay. Tack will ask where are the cocoons, like where are the where are they taking people? Are they gathering them up or are they splitting off to take them individually topside?
They've been taken away mostly one at a time.
Okay.
They're coming down, grabbing people and taking them back up above. There isn't like a central place that they're being taken and then moved from there.
Whether true or not, Tack will interpret that they do not want it to be obvious topside that this is a raid.
Yeah. Because everything upstairs seemed fine, and this is the inverse. Everybody comes down to the Golgari Swarm, to the underground, to do their dirty deeds, right? So like, you're not the only ones that move contraband through these tunnels. The Azorius, it's fair to assume that if they wanted to keep something off the streets, they would just use the underground to move people to New Prav. Okay.
And then Tack will ask if she knows where the spider web is. So the Akron, does she know where they're hiding?
Right. Yeah. Where is there a thread that you can read? She shakes her head and says, I'm not the kind of person they would have told. Right. Like she's not in that circle.
That's fine. Last of all, I'll ask who her brood is, like who her aunt is. What's her name?
Okay, yeah, she gives you an elvish name that you don't recognize.
Okay, I don't recognize it. Okay, that's fine. Then I will hand her one of my throwing knives because I have 12 of them.
Okay.
I'll give her one of my knives and break off from her.
Okay. Cool. I was just checking the name of the prison. So there are two prisons in Ravnica, two big ones. They're in precinct 2 near New Prav. Uzdek is this like the big old prison where most people get taken, but they're building a new one called Exeter that's supposed to be like 3 times bigger, but it's not in operation yet. So probably they're being taken. If they're not being taken to New Prav, like to be interrogated about something specific, they would be taken and held in that place. In Uzdek prison. So yeah, you give her a knife, and she nods, and she takes it from you and flips it over, and you can see like she's clearly practiced with it. It's not like she's scared of the knife. She seems like she knows what to do with it. So she takes it, and she asks you, like, where are you going? What are you gonna do?
Tack does not answer.
Okay.
That is none of her business.
Yeah. Okay. So she gives you whatever the equivalent of like the silent like Golgari comrade salute. Like there's got to be some kind of like secret hand sign of like respect or whatever.
Yeah, there probably is, but Tack doesn't give it back. It's just like, okay, fucking weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah, and she kind of side eyes you like, well, I'm thankful for the knife, but that didn't go the way I expected.
Cool. Later, nerd.
Yeah, and then she disappears. So where are you going? You're gonna head down to check on your mom, go home?
Yeah, I want to check on my mom.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'll check our house first, even though I know I really just want to see if there's any cops outside our house.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no intention of actually going in there.
Okay. Yeah. So you come down to your house. You're navigating the tunnels of the underground, making your way towards home. And the further from the surface you get, the less Azorius you see. Like it seems like they're what they normally do. They're going after the easy targets first and then slowly working their way down. But when you get home, there does seem to have been an exception made. When you get here, your front door is open. So the door's open. There is bright light coming from, I guess, like the upstairs window. So there's an illumination, like, and it's sending this big cone of light across the ceiling of the tunnel and the wall on the other side. And that's what you see when you get to your house.
Don't love that.
Yeah.
Can I see people, or it's just the light?
Nobody passes between whatever the source of the light is and the window in the 30 seconds that you watch, right? There's no interruption of the light. No one walks by it.
Do I know if do I know if my mom has mentioned a safe house before? At least for the two of us, if things go sideways.
Right. So this
like
is the part
somewhere
where
for me to go and then she'll come get me.
Yeah, where you flash back to like if there's ever trouble. Yeah, I think she would, just because your mom cares a lot about you and lives a dangerous life and she knows she has enemies, so she would have done something. Yeah. So I don't know what the details of that would be, but I'm happy for that to have been a thing, a conversation that you had.
I think Tech's gonna go back topside until whatever they're doing right now is over, and then they'll go to the meeting place because their mom will go, so it'll be fine. Talking to that one lady in the tunnel, she said that Nevenka got that killing blow on Gerard, and that I think Tech knows enough about the Akron to know that that would make her at least a priority.
Yeah, if this is a politically motivated thing, like if Gerard Von Savo had friends in the Azorius, and this is a like, so if you're listening to this, I'm dead, you got to go and bust Vraska and her allies, right? If that's the case, then yeah, your mom would be would be a pretty big target.
Well, not a priority to arrest, but at least Tack would think that would make her worth getting to the web.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Tack doesn't know much about that. So.
You watch the house from outside for a little bit. You don't see anybody moving around inside. And so instead of going to investigate, you turn and head back towards the.
Yeah. I'm going to go topside because it's not going to do her any good for me to get arrested. Even if I'm not arrested for this, arrested for one of my many topside crimes.
Yeah. So I like the idea that's a way of thinking, of being like, listen, I haven't committed any crimes down here. This is legally distinct territory from up there. I have surface crimes and then I have regular crimes.
Yeah. Like if I get arrested, I don't know that I go to the same prison down here as everyone else.
I think Golgari justice is much more about getting recycled. I think it's like, you goofed up, so we're just gonna reclaim your body. There's kind of like a weird like mushroom Fremen thing going on in the underground. But so you slip away, right? You turn away and head out. Yeah. And on your way back to the surface, there is a point at which the secret tunnels that you're using, or the sort of back roads that you're using, come close enough to whatever the Golgari would consider like a highway, a main thoroughfare where the like larger zombies would drag like big piles of stuff to be reclaimed. Like it's a big highway that leads to a major juncture that leads upstairs. But you notice even adjacent to it, echoing off the walls, you hear like shouting. You hear like an obvious sound of an angry crowd. There's a lot of shouting. And then every once in a while every few seconds, you hear the clearly amplified by magic voice of, and it's not even the voice of a particular arrestor. It's this voice, this magically generated voice that the Azorius use when they're trying to be like the boss of shit. So it's this sort
Don't resist.
Yeah.
We are here for your safety.
It's this loud, multi-tonal, authoritarian generated artificial voice. And it's very much doing that. It's like, do not interrupt. This is official Azorius Guild business. Please stand aside, make way. And like it repeats this voice a few times. But everybody's like yelling and shouting. And you can hear this in an adjacent tunnel.
I will investigate stealthily.
Yeah, you want to go and take a look? Okay. Well, we'll keep that 22. We'll let that ride. So you sneak up, and I think that probably the tunnel that you're in goes above this. So you peer over a kind of natural balcony down onto, like I said, essentially a highway, and it's crowded. It's full of people. There's probably 1,000 people down there, and they are lagging slightly behind and as close to a group of a dozen Azorius arresters. And these arresters are accompanied by a couple of ornithopters. The ornithopters are emitting that the voice of the law sound, and the arresters have in the center of them. She has a bag over her head, and she has her hands manacled in front of her. And she's being like, she's got a chain leading to one of the arresters, and they're basically walking her through this main thoroughfare. You can't see her face, but you recognize, you know what these hoods are for. They're very specifically anti-Golgari, because the Gorgons really only exist among the Golgari. And so this hood is used to like limit their ability to turn people to stone. It's Vraska. And that's why everyone's so upset, because the leader of the Golgari has been arrested and is being like walked up the main street by the Azorius, and everybody's like shouting and like screaming at them, but no one has done anything yet. This hasn't turned into like, this could go very badly, but it hasn't yet. And that's what you see. You peer over the edge and you see that.
See, this is where Tack comes at an impasse, because Tack has no love for guilt in general.
Yeah.
If Vraska is already kidnapped, the chances of them further arresting people or hunting down the Akron or anything like that lessens, and the Akron can just come in and bust Vraska out of prison or get revenge if she's executed or something.
Right.
Like that.
The arrest of the leader of the guild is either the beginning or the end of a pogrom, right? It's either like, we got the person we were looking for and everybody already, or it's like, we have your leader, now we got to root out the rest of you. Right.
And that's what's going on through Tack's head, is like thinking about that. On the other hand, like they have to think about like, what would their mom want them to do in this type of situation? Does allowing Vraska to be taken right now put their mom in further harm?
Yeah.
Which their mom is the only person in the world they care about, and is the only person who sort of like penetrates that neutral evil umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, this situation would obviously be very different if it was your mom being walked down the street by the Azorius. But this is instead someone who is obviously important enough politically to your mom that she helped her take control of the guild, but now she's being arrested.
Yeah, exactly. She's a person who at least represents our future fortune. I know that these arrests are off the book. I don't know that she'll make it to prison.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Fair.
Oh, God, this is the fucking worst. This is such garbage. I hate this. Let me scroll up real quick in the notes. Let me just check something.
Let me get some reference on how I might feel about this. That's totally reasonable.
Oh God, I hate this. Luckily for everyone present, I gave my Molotov kits to Torgor.
Yeah, because I think looking at this and like thinking about like what you could actually accomplish, the chances of you being able to heroically save Vraska from the Azorius are next to none. Low. The best you could do is make this situation more volatile, right? You could push it. You see a situation teetering on the edge, and you could probably, with a little application of chaos, shove it over the edge and turn this into a riot. But that wouldn't necessarily make anything any better.
Yeah, I don't know that a riot would make it a better outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if Tack
were just make it more dangerous.
If Tack were chaotic evil, it'd be no question, right?
Yeah,
it would just be
absolutely.
Like, yes, this is a part where you can create chaos for maybe your own benefit or amusement, but this is just gonna make a bad situation worse.
Yeah, Because if Tak were chaotic evil, they would have no trouble throwing a knife into the crowd.
Yeah, right.
Incite a riot. Because it'd be awesome. This is ripe for a riot. Yeah. But Tak isn't chaotic evil.
Right.
And Tak
and that a riot wouldn't benefit you. It wouldn't benefit you personally.
It doesn't benefit me.
No.
And I think Tak will move away from the edge and continue back topside.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So you slip away and head back to the surface. So we cut to Tak emerging from an alley, some secret entrance into the underground. And where did you go? Where do you want to surface when you leave the underground?
I think I'll surface back in. Oh no, that's a terrible idea. I'm not going to surface back near the precinct. I'll surface back near I'll surface back near the host in the shell.
Yeah, you want to go back to base?
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to be seen as a Golgari popping out in Azorius territory right now.
Right, because you know that above ground they would be in order like, keep an eye out because we just went down and kicked the hornet's nest, so there's going to be bugs coming out of the holes.
Yeah, exactly. Also, only we can refer to ourselves as bugs, so.
Yeah, fair. Right. Yeah, that's funny that you'd think that would be the kind of thing that would be included in the setting is just like derogatory terms that the guilds use for each other. Like bad nicknames.
Yeah, like only Rakdos can call themselves clowns.
Yeah, right. Like that's the thing because they would be because in-group language like that is huge in creating and enforcing culture. So you'd think that there would be,
especially in a city that takes over an entire planet.
Yeah, right. And that's the key. It's not like gender or race. It's guild that defines one Ravnican against another. And so yeah, there would be. And Ravnica's been around long enough. You'd think that they would develop their own like specific languages, right? Like. You'd think that Dimir would be a language and Gruul would be a language and whatever. Because like the guilds have been around for 10,000 years. So.
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. I totally had an idea.
Cut me off.
When you were like a couple episodes back, you talked about how a lot of these guilds have like rings or some way of showing other guilds that they're a part of
badges and stuff. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be so cool if Dimir rings were just the other guilds. But when you shook the hand of another Dimir agent, it like electric or like
there was some kind of like
only feel it when you're touching another Dimir.
Totally, yeah. Because their whole thing now is like we exist, and they're like an open secret. They're like, yeah, we exist and we do secret stuff, but most of our members are in other guilds, and you'll never know who they are. Like it's like a thing everyone knows. Yeah. I also feel like if you don't like somebody in your guild, you just accuse them of being a Dimir and then see what happens. Like,
they're a witch.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Dimir.
Susan's a member of House Dimir, and she's like, "This is because I ate your yogurt, isn't it?" And you're like, Susan.
How'd you know it was my yogurt, Susan?
That's a pretty Dimir thing to have info on.
Exactly.
Did I didn't put my name on it.
Steal that yogurt out of the fridge, Susan? You filthy Dimir.
What are filthy Demirs like? What do they exist as? You know?
Wow.
Katie, what slur should we avoid?
Derogatory term for Dimir. Yeah.
Yeah. Katie May, what would you like to be called?
Yeah.
You filthy Dimir.
Yeah.
Works. Scared.
Yeah.
Why would I give you something to further bully?
No.
Well,
we also
what
talked
do you
about
want to be called?
You could call Rakdos terrible people.
Yeah, right.
Awful people.
Well,
or
that's a fact.
Extreme libertarians, because that's what I've realized what they are. They're just they're like,
you could call all Rakdos Swansons.
I was reading a Wikipedia article about anarcho-nihilism the other day, and I was like, oh, so like the Rakdos then. I see how it is. Yeah. It's like basically acknowledging that everything is fucked and the only solution is to just continue fucking it, I guess. So let's just light everything on fire and have a great time. The end.
Yeah, they're just ICP, right? It's
pretty
just
much. Yeah.
Hey,
exactly.
Yeah.
They are not that bad, guys. All right. They just drink Fago and maybe like traffic drugs.
Maybe
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And they don't know how magnets work, which is weird.
That's also
because
true of
they seem
Ravnica.
pretty simple.
Yeah, the Rakdos also don't understand magnets. Yeah.
You know, to be honest, I don't understand.
You know, let's be real.
Either. So like, I'm not gonna even laugh at that joke, because if someone in the chat would be like, Carlos, how do magnets work? I'd be like, I don't know.
You tell them it's a miracle, Carlos.
That's the appropriate response to when someone is making fun of the Insane Clown Posse and their magnet abilities. You can just be like, yeah, do you know how magnets work? Please explain it to me.
Yeah. Tell me what the difference between a magnet and gravity is right now. Can you do it? I don't know.
Science. So, Tack, you head back to the Host in the Shell. It's back in Precinct 6, and what time? It's midday, right? Or like because the Torgor, Rode, and Winnegar went to the house after our illustrious Senator Ironclad left, right? So he's at work, and it's like afternoon, and you're hanging out in his house. Okay.
Nice.
He never showed up.
Yeah.
It's the door. We don't know where.
So there's like a late lunch crowd at the Host in the Shell, and the host has been here for a while. So like we said before, it's building up quite a nice clientele, and it's become a fairly popular place. So there's like a lineup outside of people, mostly I think Simic scientists on their like lunch break, and they're all lined up outside.
Pass all of those people.
Yeah. Yeah, so they all kind of like look at you, and I think some woman who's like part snail, she's like, "Excuse me, there's a lineup. The line starts back. Excuse me." And you just like walk right by.
Sure, Jan. Okay.
She's got the let me see your manager haircut, but she has eye stalks, so her eyes come out of the top of the haircut.
It's really the
best. Actually reminds me of one of the funniest exchanges I ever heard in a line, where these two people got into a heated debate, and I got to hear a big angry man exclaim, "I didn't know it was a line system. I thought it was a ticketing system."
Did he have a ticket?
He had a ticket. But like, apparently they weren't using tickets, and they were in a line because someone gave up on pure chaos, I guess.
Yeah, poor thing.
Yeah, whatever.
That's not his fault. He had a ticket. If he didn't have a ticket, I'd be like, what the fuck? But also,
Someone
don't yell at people.
He wanted lunch meat. There's a reason to yell in this life, and lunch meat is not one of
Someone called him Boomer that morning. It was very hard for him.
No, Masood,
Okay,
that's enough. Everybody knows you don't use the hard R.
Sorry.
Okay, Boomy.
Even if you don't, then you sound like an Australian. Okay, Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. It makes it sound very like exciting. It's like, okay,
that
Boomer.
meme is very confusing to Australians. It's like, why is everyone talking about boomerangs? I'm so confused. Crikey.
Worst ever heard.
I'm sorry, Australia. I'm sorry.
I'm not sorry. You knew what you did, Australia.
I was about to say that's a good accent. I thought that was
It's an okay Crocodile Dundee accent. It's an okay The Simpsons episode that's set in Australia accent. It's not a good Australian accent.
I would have called it a whistle.
I love Bubblegum Crisis.
Just a little kick in the bum. All right. So you get back. There's a big line. You, of course, skip the line. Go right inside.
Wait.
And it's busy inside too. There are people at the tables. There are people ordering pastries to go up at the counter. There's lots of maids. It looks like the place has hired some new people you don't recognize. And nobody even like really notices you come in, because you're sneaky and you're acting like you own the place. So
yeah. Plus, I'm definitely taking like a croissant or something off someone's table.
Yoink.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So again,
Going
somebody's
back
like,
to my regular
I wasn't done with. Can I get a box or no? Okay. Let's walk off with half of their croissant. Yeah. Okay.
Call 911. Slip on some sunglasses and moonwalk into the karaoke.
I feel like you're not gonna walk backwards. You're gonna slip on your sunglasses and then push off and ride your Heelys out of the scene. Like just.
I came.
Coast.
Do a kickflip on my scooter.
This weekend, I came very close. I was bored in the hotel room, and I remember meeting Bebo at Big Bad Con, and they had Heelys, and they're like, "Get some Heelys." And I thought that was so cool. I was.
Do they
so
have
close.
them in adult sizes?
They do. Apparently,
they have them in adult sizes.
Yeah.
It's like between like $65 and $100. I want to say
God.
on Amazon.
Carlos.
It was in my cart. I was ready to buy it right then and there. And then I was like, how do Heelys work? And I YouTubed grown man Heelys.
Once Serena slammed the door open, she was like, no.
No, she was like, get him now.
Yeah, she's a bad influence. You don't want that. Yeah.
I'm DMing her right now.
Listen, once we get Heelys by like, I don't know, acronym or like Yoji Yamamoto, then you gotta get your techwear Heelys, then you're good to go.
Well, I want I don't know why I thought the wheel goes in. Like you can
you always are on wheels. No.
You're always on wheels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to like, I don't know, push back on my heel and they pop out and then I zip away. But it's literally just grown men on their tiptoes walking around.
That's a really good way to forget you're wearing them, like in a lineup at the bank and then just falling and breaking your hip and just being like,
breaking your hip like the grandpa you are.
Exactly. Old man breaks hip in bank. Shoes to blame. News at 11.
Yeah. If you guys want to laugh, just look up grown man Heelys. It's really bad. It's like, oh, wow, this would be me. Even the guy who's okay at it is going to hurt himself one day. Like, no, not for me, guys.
You don't
have trying to get me to buy Heelys, guys.
Yeah, guys.
It's not going to happen.
Leave Carlos alone.
Okay. So just wait. When you go to your wedding on the day of, there's going to be a box waiting for you. And for some reason, your shoes, they're missing. Who took them?
No, it's going to be...
I had to travel all of Thailand in Heelys.
That's a movie. I'm filming it.
I do want to see you like on the beach in those Heelys.
Yeah, one man, two wheels.
I took a
Quest
Heely
for love.
I took a totally sick Heely tour of Bangkok this summer. It was awesome.
I do want James Earl Jones to narrate that documentary.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
well,
okay. I moonwalk back on my Heelys and do a sick kick flip.
So
and go in the karaoke.
I guess the question is, are you going here to just like hide out or begin planning your operation? Like, what is this? So you get to safety, relative safety, right? In the host. You get back here. You get into this former karaoke room, now storage room. I believe this is the room where the window got broken. So it's probably like boarded over.
No, that was the office.
That was the office. That's right. Yeah, because you left him in there. Okay.
Yeah, this is the room where we spilled a ton of parfaits on the floor.
So probably there's a big stain on the floor. There's a bunch of boxes jammed into the corner.
And there's a dry erase board where Wenzel tried to explain like metaphysical nonsense that I don't care about.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So you get back and what do you do? You've got your stolen pastry.
I guess I sit here and I eat my stolen pastry because I don't know where Ironclad lives. I don't know that everybody is at Ironclad's house playing Uno or spades or whatever they're playing.
Okay.
I'm just hanging out here.
We have that moment of you, like you sit down on the couch and you eat the stolen croissant, even though it has like lipstick on it. And yeah, right. I don't. And and then all of a sudden there's a knock at the door. You hear a knock. And it's like
I'm
tentative.
sorry.
It's a little like, hello.
Did we determine that I did wash my face and everything before we went on that thing, or am I still eating lipstick? Like, does my face still look like that? And I'm wearing a nightie. I don't know. What did we determine?
I assume that you changed at some point between
incognito mission. Okay,
clarified you took the nightie off. I remember this much.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the lipstick on then. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a tentative knock on the door.
Mind your own fucking business.
On the other side
of the passcode this week.
I say on the other side of the door, you hear a voice be like, "Oh, sorry, didn't mean to bother you." And then you just hear like, they don't leave. There's a pause where they're kind of like, you can feel them thinking about if they want to like come in and knock again.
Open the door.
Yeah, you open the door. Okay.
Is this a nerd? Can I beat him up?
It is a nerd. Yes. You see, you see a familiar Loxodon.
Okay, that's fine. I thought you were gonna say you see a familiar goblin. I was like, oh, kill him again.
So you see a Loxodon. You see Gary. Gary is I think Gary's working in the bakery today, and so has a little chef's hat and an apron on. And Gary's holding a plate with a half dozen like chocolate dip, like chocolate glazed pastries on it.
Oh my gosh, are they Madeleines?
They can be, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
And then
They
in his
can
other
be.
hand, he's got a carafe, like a silver. It's like beading with like condensation, and then tucked under one arm, he has like some glasses, and he's kind of like holding it, and he clearly knocked on the door of this trunk, and he's like trying to hold all this stuff, and he's just like, I saw you come in and you look kind of sad. I thought, can I put these down somewhere?
Yeah, you work here.
And he comes in and he like puts the plate down and puts the glasses down. And he's like, I made you lemonade.
My asshole shield is failing.
And so he's like, where is everybody else?
Uh-oh. There's a lot of questions.
These are a lot of questions. Tack is immediately suspicious. And Tack just like sets their little red hand on the door and just like slowly closes it.
And is this a close it behind Gary or a like close it in Gary's face to try to? Okay, yeah.
I don't know. They're probably at work.
And he nods and he says,
Like squints their little eyes.
"Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know why, but I thought all y'all worked here, but I guess I've never seen y'all do any work except Winnegar. Winnegar worked the counter with me one time. That was all right. Well, there's enough for everybody. I saw you come in and you look so down. Are you doing okay?"
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misread you. So sometimes I do that.
There's like a loud click of the lock.
Yeah, he doesn't notice. It's like my therapist says that sometimes I project my own feelings on other people so I can externalize them, and then I get anxious about. So maybe what's really happening is that I'm feeling kind of sad today. And well, are you busy, Tack? He looks around. You're probably busy. I'm sorry. I should get out of here.
No. Tell me everything.
Who is this Tack?
This Tack is a person who's like, is this a spy and do I have to kill them? Maybe they'll slip up.
Or was my heart growing 3 times?
So he comes over and he sits down on the little like the couch that you guys have in here.
Can I roll insight to see if he's friends with Winnegar?
I mean, hard to tell at a glance, but he
everyone's friend but Winnegar.
Everyone will die.
So he sits down and he says, well, everything's been real busy around here lately. It's nice we've been in one place for so long. We're starting to get regulars. You know, people coming in ordering the same stuff. Good for business, which is nice. But I can't help but think it's going to be real sad when we uproot and go somewhere else. All these people, where are they going to get their pastries from then?
I don't know, Gary. How long have you worked here?
Oh, I don't know. A couple of weeks.
Yeah? Where'd you work before?
He kind of squints at you. He's like, oh, that's kind of an embarrassing story. He looks around like, oh, you're gonna make me tell it, are you? Well,
I mean, you're the one talking about your feelings, Gary. I'm just here.
He's like,
And like grabs a pastry and like shoves it in their mouth hole.
he's like, well, when I was, and he gestures like still a good 2 or 3 feet taller than you, and he's like, I was like, oh, about this big. I had kind of a thing for a girl that was in the Gruul clans. Oh, she was lovely, and she was just so free, you know. She could just do whatever she wanted. My parents are Selesnians, and I know that from the outside they can look like real nice, nature-loving, healing types, but they were judgmental folks, my mom and dad, and we'd get in fights all the time, and I wanted to join the Gruul clans because I wanted to impress this girl, and I went to sign up, and they how they told me I had to do a test, and they wanted me to fight a crunch, and it was, well, I didn't win, and so I'm between guilds right now, so I'm just yeah, you know, my
you
mom.
know any guilds that are hiring right now?
Right? Like my mom wants me to go back and join the Selesnians, and I guess I'll probably, you know, I'll probably end up in the Conclave. I don't really think they're a good fit for me philosophically, but you gotta go where your people are, right?
Gary would be the best mirror agent of all time.
Yes, I can't.
Gary,
I can't wait for him to join our conspiracy.
I just want to say, so like, as soon as he has a conversation with Road, like, hello, Gary.
Gary.
Guys, what if we start our own guild?
Tack like sets their hand on top of like Gary's incredibly huge knee. Is just like,
guilds are fucking stupid, Gary.
He makes a face like, he probably makes like a slight startled trumpet, like a little like, and he like leans back and his ears kind of like flap up a little, and he's like, Tack. Like you've just said something blasphemous. Like,
Gary,
Tack.
there is no guild that's gonna love you as much as you love yourself.
That seems very sad to him, and his shoulders kind of slump, and he's like, but well, just looks at the floor.
Let's play a game. Do you like games?
And he kind of looks up and he's like, well, sometimes me and my friends, we get together, we go, my mom's house has a big basement, and there's like a ping pong table and some boxes down there. And sometimes me and my friends get together, we play board games. Is it a board game? I love those.
It has a board in it. I've got this table. Do you like this table, Gary?
And he looks at it. He's like,
Best thing about tables is you can put all kinds of games on them. This is a game that I used to play with my mom. And we played it whenever we weren't really sure who was telling the truth.
and Tack's gonna like take out one of their knives and set it on the table.
Okay, Gary looks at it. He's like, oh, I don't know about that, Tack. I'm not very good at knife games.
Are you good at lying?
Oh, no, lying's wrong.
That's true. It is wrong to lie, Gary.
And he nods. He's like, is this part of the game?
But I can't know for sure unless you play this game with me. Would you like to forfeit the game, Gary?
And he's like, well, I mean, technically I should clock out if I'm going to take a break.
Tack like wraps their fingers around the knife handle.
Would you like to forfeit, Gary?
And I mean, the way you're saying that makes me think the answer is no.
You're really good at this game.
Thank you. I've never played it before. What else do I have to do?
I have high hopes for you. You just have to tell me literally everything you know about me and my friends.
Oh, so it's like a getting to know you kind of game. Okay.
It is. And here, can I see your hand?
He looks at the knife and he's like, yeah, okay. And like sticks his hand out.
Thanks, Gary. I'm going to ask you a question. And if you lie to me, I'll know because I'll cut your palm. And if you say it hurts, that means you're a liar.
He looks at you, he's like, what? But not for real though, right? Like you're just going to pretend?
Would you like to roll insight on me, Gary?
Yeah. Would you like to roll insight, please? Gary?
You're like, Gary, roll insight and get out of there.
Somehow, I don't know if you noticed this, Adam, but TK has become the DM in this situation. and now you are terrified. I don't know.
This is how I do it. This is the moment when you regret playing games with me.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Look at me. I am the DM now. So yeah, I'll have Gary make an insight check. What's the DC on this insight check? All right. Let's see here. Well, I only barely made it. I got a 3.
Yeah.
So Gary, I think Gary looks and they're like, Tack, I don't think I should play this game with you. I gotta get back to work, but enjoy the lemonade. And Gary starts to like stand up. Now you're still holding his hand, but he kind of like awkwardly he's not gonna pull away from you, but he stands up and is kind of like,
Okay, Gary, you can go back to work.
And Tuck's gonna put the knife in his hand. But you're gonna make a shitty gruel if you don't have a knife.
And he looks at it and he's like, I don't. No, nobody.
Goodbye, Gary.
Okay. Walks out, just holding this knife, looking at it like, wow, Tech's just giving knives away to everybody today.
I have 12.
Knives for everyone.
So many. You get a knife.
But the thing is, what the people you're giving these knives to don't realize is that while they seem like they're a gift, they're actually all controlled by one master knife, which you control. And if you ever die, that knife will take on your essence.
Am I giving away hot knives or am I giving away Horcruxes?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's the true question.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Gary takes the knife and tucks it into his apron and heads back into the other room to continue.
Yeah,
working.
and they're just like he goes down the hallway, he just hears a
Goodbye, Gary.
Yeah. Like, bye.
And then the
Thanks
door
for the knife.
closes and locks.
Excellent. Okay, cool.
Now I get all the pastries.
Yes, and you have an entire thing of lemonade and an entire pile of pastries for you to eat. And so you, I assume, just eat them all and put yourself into a sugar coma.
Oh God, yes.
All right, perfect.
The happiest day of my life.
All right, so that's the shot we go to break on, right? Is the door closing and then the horrific garbage compactor sounds of Tack eating an entire plate of pastries all at once.
Will you stop reading my live journal?
Yeah, this is loud grinding sound. Perfect. All right, we're gonna take a short break, and we'll be right back to check in on Road, Torgor, and Winnegar when we return. Don't go anywhere.